All right. You still need to get some supplies. Go ahead. You're going to take out your charcoal supplies. Now, I've given you 2 charcoal pieces. You probably only need 1. I gave you 2 just in case one breaks and you feel weird about it. Either way, there's 2. One will go a long way. You'll see. Before you use the eraser, though, you'll definitely have to unwrap it. It's brand new. You got your own. So go ahead and unwrap it. Right? Those who have nails will have an easier time with this. There we go. And in your student kit, you do have 2 different erasers. This one is for charcoal. Don't ruin the white one using it with charcoal. This one comes black. It's ready to get dirtier. Okay? So a black eraser, charcoal pencil, we'll use in a little bit, and whoops, one of your charcoal pieces. Okay? The rest you can carefully just set aside. Okay. Now, when you're working with charcoal, it's really an expressive medium. You see that obviously it comes in a pencil format, but the pencil and charcoal is not for drawing perfect stuff. It's for getting the little details that you probably could not get when you had the really thick piece in front of you. Right? The thin little edge of something. Okay? You can sketch all day with charcoal and charcoal pencil, excuse me, and that's fine, but it might not always be the best way to start a charcoal drawing. If you didn't know, charcoal does erase, so that's cool, and you've got a really nice high quality eraser. Remember, wherever you're working, you're going to create some charcoal dust, and that can get everywhere. So please make sure that you are keeping an eye on where all your dust is going. In other words, don't just go and blow it off of your paper. Maybe you want to lift some paper and create a small pile. Kind of depends on your workspace. Some of you are working on the dining room table. We don't want all this stuff everywhere. All right. Now, to start a drawing in charcoal, I recommend using the dirty finger method. That means just taking this charcoal square and kind of playing around with it in your fingers a little bit so that you've got some charcoal on your fingers. Okay? Charcoal is one of the oldest mediums, if not the oldest medium, that people figured out how to make marks with. It was left over from fire. We're talking way, way back, right? Cave painting type stuff. You would use this. Of course, it didn't come in a perfectly designed square compressed this way, but it's the same material basically. Okay? All right, so you can sketch with your fingers. So now if your fingers are dirty on your large scratch paper, go ahead and try just spreading some of the charcoal around. Just to get comfortable with doing that. You'll see that a little bit does go a long way. You can get pretty far with it. What's great about sketching with your fingers is any mark you make this way can be easily erased. Whereas if you draw with the charcoal directly on the paper, you may have a more difficult time removing it. In fact, it may not all come off. Okay? So when you are sketching, when you are laying out the drawing at first, use the dirty finger method. It's easier to control. Maybe there's a little bowl here with fruit, right? The classic. I lay out the shape of the bowl, the back end lightly there, okay? Then you take the charcoal when you're established the shape and you're happy with it. You can take the charcoal and kind of define the edge. Now, I don't mean outline because I'm not going to do it all the way around. I just mean define the edge, which means this side I'm saying is the dark side. Maybe the light source, imaginary, is over here somewhere, okay? Put a very light line there. Use the corners of the charcoal square whenever you can when you want lines and edges, okay? Keep it really light on the light side. I don't want it to look too much like an outline. Make it darker here. You color a little with charcoal, and then you've got to spread it around, okay? You don't want to use it like a crayon. Use your fingers to spread it. You can do anything like what I'm doing right now on one of your large scratch papers. The one you folded in addition to the one you folded for the folder will be perfect, okay? So you can try experimenting. The back end of the bowl, maybe it's very light. That's where the light is coming from. Inside the bowl that I'm inventing, it's a darker, right? Because it's a bowl. So I'll put like a little dark on the edge there and smudge up So it gradually gets lighter. Okay. Now also, in a charcoal work, eraser is extremely important. It's totally useful. So if you want to clean something up, in charcoal, it's about often adding more than you think you need to, and then removing some to make it right. Okay. So like I said, you're going to put more than you need to because you have to, because it's charcoal, you have less control. But then you go back with your pen, your eraser, excuse me, and you just clean it up. Okay. You cast shadow. Color in a little, but not too much, not forever, because then you'll get too much charcoal on your paper. Now for the details, you would maybe switch to the charcoal pencil. You can get the kind of little line edges that you just can't get. Maybe there's some kind of little detail on the bowl. Maybe there's like a little step up. It's a little different down here. Maybe there's a pattern. It's barely visible. Engraved maybe. Right? Or maybe it's textured, or it's these areas are not engraved, but they're like heavily indented, like it's a ceramic piece made by hand. Maybe they'll look more like a rib. Okay. Now, if I am wanting to create the illusion of light and make something look more three-dimensional, remember the artist's trick. In this light side, actually putting a dark on the outside of the object creates the illusion of space. Okay? That wasn't much of a corner until I put something behind it. Notice I'm using my fingers to smudge it around. If your fingers start to get hot, you're rubbing too hard. Just put more charcoal and you'll be okay. Okay? But you see how that little dark behind that actually makes it appear more three-dimensional here, right? Okay. Charcoal on an edge. So let's say this is the bottom of something, okay? It's going to have some shading on it, not on the outside, but on it. One thing that a lot of beginning students do is they'll smudge like this, okay? That's just making the line that you produced fuzzy. And that's not necessarily your goal, okay? Your goal is to shade on the inside of the object. So don't just arbitrarily make the line thicker and blurry. Pick a side. Am I putting the shading of this on the inside of the object or on the outside? Okay, you got to decide where the lighting is before you start. Just look at it. I'm cleaning up the outside edge as best I can, because where I really wanted to put the shading was inside the object. So notice I'm using the long edge of the charcoal. I'm just kind of putting it on the edge there and spreading it in towards the center. Then bring it in. If you bring the dark all the way to the edge, then that edge line is no longer an outline. It becomes part of the object. With the gray that's still on your finger, whatever's left, you can kind of just smudge around and create the interior of this imaginary object. If your edges aren't that clean, take another attempt with the eraser. And just notice, it's never really going to be super, super clean when you're working in charcoal, but it's clean enough to appreciate and understand the work. There does have to be an attempt to clean it up, though, for sure. All right. Now, what you're going to be doing for your assignment, and you can experiment on your paper, this one we started, as much as you want, is drawing your own hand, your non-drawing hand, the one you don't need to draw. You're going to pose it in some dramatic way, okay? So what I mean is not this, not flat. That's not dramatic in any way. Neither is that, okay? But this, something that's got a little bit of like agony, perhaps. I want you to draw agony. There it is, right? Okay, so dramatic hands, something like that. Now, just like I showed you, this hand is laid out the same way, meaning charcoal on the fingers to lay out all of the basics. You're going to be working smaller, so the finger you'll use will probably be the pinky rather than the thumb, which I definitely used when I did this drawing. Okay? Notice the light. The light is super important for drama. Don't cover your whole page with darkness. You have to have some light. No matter what color your skin is, there's going to be some highlights. So make sure you've got them. If you forget to keep light areas and it gets all dark, remember what this beautiful tool is for, right? Remember that erasers can be used to get rid of completely something as best you can by going back and forth aggressively, but they can also be used to just get rid of some by dragging. You see that? We just drag it through an area, and even though I can't see it on my black eraser, I can tell I've lifted quite a bit of the charcoal from the paper. Okay. So again, to start this drawing, you'll dirty the fingers up a little bit. Obviously, you figure out what the pose is going to be. Right? And then I would suggest lightly lay it out with your fingers. Even if it's really complicated, the fingers helps you to get a form, something that you can actually see and work with. You can make it more clear later. That's next. Yeah, I love it when people walk up and you're halfway through a drawing and they're like, what's that? Like, if it doesn't look right in the beginning, that's so okay. Trust me. It's about being comfortable with it not looking perfect and amazing from the start, okay? Now, you could totally draw this taking the charcoal pencil directly to the paper. It's just not going to be as dramatic, I think, than if you at least start this way, okay? So maybe that's kind of the basics of this hand position. Notice I don't make them too dark because I have some light areas, but I've put it down with my finger so I can totally erase it, drag through, and make it lighter later, okay? Then it's about starting to carefully, without making them too much darker, and definitely without making very, very dark outlines, I can start to kind of define where things are. I'm keeping these lines as light as possible because I don't want them to become outlines. I'm just basically sharpening up what I did draw with my fingers, even throwing in some palm hand lines right now because that'll help me. There's a dark chunk there. I want to get it in now. I'm putting in a little extra heavier charcoal where I know it's going to be dark because of the light. And then I can smudge that away from the edge. Things that are too small to draw with this, save for later. You can do it with the charcoal pencil. I definitely draw faster than I would imagine you should, and that's fine. I've been doing it for a while, no problem. You don't have to draw as fast as me. In fact, you're probably better, so you can take your time. When you're trying to find lights and darks, if you haven't used this technique before, try squinting. When you almost close your eyes really and your brain can only take in what's happening with the lights and darks. They forget about details, they forget about color, and they just help you focus on just the lights and the darks, which is really important, especially in a charcoal drawing, since that's all you've got. As you can see, it's rough. You want to be comfortable with the roughness, but look what you can do. Once you say, yeah, that's a good shape for that finger, I can clean it up. Keep going. I'm going to put some of these lines in here to help me establish a few anatomical details. Try not to let your hand move. I'm letting mine move a lot, which is affecting my drawing. Don't make the outlines around fingernails too dark unless they're colored or painted, right? Then you could. Otherwise, keep them light. You definitely do some good line work with the charcoal pencil. Get more clean definition. Where's this thumb? There she is. Okay. And kind of like a blurry mess. I agree. It's okay. But good drawing is not going to be done in a few minutes. It's going to take some time. As you can see, we're already getting something that looks like a hand. The more light and dark that we add, the more drama, the more detail, the better it's going to look. Okay. So that's just a good start. Obviously, there's a lot more work to do on this hand, but I want you to start drawing now, because as fun as it is to watch someone else draw, it's still more fun to draw yourself. If you don't have charcoal with you today because you haven't picked up your supplies yet, you can do this in pencil. Obviously, it's not the same. You have to get your supplies though, and you got to do this in charcoal when you get them. Okay? All right. For today, you can start. And again, it's charcoal. When you're ready, maybe I suggest you do a practice on this big paper like I just did. And then when you're ready, you switch to the better quality charcoal paper. Okay? If you have a question, if you need help, you don't understand something, please let me know in the chat and I can help you. Okay? But it's your hand drawn with the charcoal supplies on one of the good quality charcoal pieces of paper. Before you start drawing on those papers, make sure you peel off the sticker. They're designed to come off. You see how easy that was? They're not going to ruin your paper. They're designed to come right off. But if you don't take it off, you will get like a sticker outline. Okay? Which side you draw on, that's up to you actually. The side that the sticker came from is smoother than the side that that did not have the sticker. It's up to you. For a small drawing, it's I would say either side, honestly. But if you're worried about the texture, you can use the smoother side. Okay? All right. Here's another example of a dramatic hand. Those fingers all spread out like that, right? You can see it's the same hand that you just saw me drawing. It's my hand. And again, the charcoal, where does the drama come in? The light and dark. And then also it kind of has movement. And that just has to do with the way I erased. See, it was bigger and it got smaller. So in other words, the original sketch was a little too large. And then it got smaller and more well-defined. Okay? Here's the other half of that picture. It's kind of scary. You ready? Ah! Anyway, drama. All right. Now I'm going to wipe my hands because I have to touch the computer. But you guys can go ahead and get started drawing.